It finally happened. Something no one in the paddock wanted to believe was actually possible. Something that instantly rewrites the landscape of the 2025 Formula One World Championship. In a shocking, devastating, and highly controversial post-race decision, both McLaren cars that were driven by Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri have been officially disqualified from the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Not penalized, not time dropped, not warned. Disqualified. Removed from the official results. And in one single verdict, the entire championship battle has been thrown into chaos. Just hours before this decision, Lando Norris had crossed the line in second place. Oscar Piastri had battled his way to fourth. McLaren had celebrated a massive points haul on one of the biggest stages of the season. Their fans believed the title fight was still firmly in their hands. But now, those points are gone, completely wiped out. And Max Verstappen has suddenly re-entered the championship picture in a way that nobody saw coming at the end of that race. This is not speculation, this is a fact. Both McLaren MCL 39 cars have been found non-compliant with the FIA technical regulations after a detailed post-race inspection. Specifically, officials discovered that the rearmost skid blocks on both cars were below the legal minimum thickness of 9 mm, which is a direct breach of Article 3.5.9 of the FIA technical regulations. As soon as that data was confirmed, the matter was referred to the stewards, and following further measurements taken twice, under supervision, in the presence of McLaren representatives, the verdict was delivered. Disqualification for both drivers. No appeal on the night, no exceptions, just one cold, brutal statement. The cars did not comply, the drivers were disqualified. And immediately, Formula One changed. The key detail in this entire situation is the rear skid block thickness. These components sit under the car and act as a control mechanism to prevent teams from running their cars too low to the ground. Running too low can increase performance, but also risks dangerous ground contact and structural damage. The FIA requires these skid blocks to remain above 9 mm thickness after the race to prove that the car was not running illegally close to the ground. On both McLaren cars, that measurement came back below the legal limit. Officials didn't just measure once, they measured again, in front of the stewards, in front of 3 McLaren team representatives, and the second set of measurements was even lower than the original readings. At that moment, there was no longer a debate about data, only judgment. McLaren argued that mitigating circumstances existed, explaining that there had been unexpected additional porpoising in Las Vegas and limited opportunity to test due to weather issues on day one and shortened practice sessions. From McLaren's perspective, these conditions contributed to excessive wear on the skid blocks, but the FIA dismissed that argument. However, the FIA did clarify something crucial. They formally acknowledged the breach appeared to be unintentional and that there was not a deliberate attempt to circumvent the regulations. But unintentional or not, a breach is still a breach. And in Formula One, the regulations do not bend for intent. Now comes the most dramatic consequence of this disqualification. Before this decision, Lando Norris was leading the championship. He had extended his advantage with a determined drive in Las Vegas, recovering to second despite early chaos. Oscar Piastri had also taken crucial points to remain in the title hunt. Verstappen, although strong, was still trying to claw his way back into serious contention. But now, everything has changed. McLaren's points from Las Vegas are 0. Gone. Deleted. In an instant, the championship standings were rewritten. Max Verstappen now sits level on points with Oscar Piastri on 366 points each. Lando Norris remains at the top on 390 points, but his cushion has shrunk to just 24 points. With 2 Grand Prix and 1 sprint event still to run, 58 points remain on the table. What once looked like a controlled McLaren championship has now turned into a 3-way war again. Not through overtakes, not through pit strategies, not through driver mistakes, but through a post-race inspection table in a closed FIA room. This is the ruthless side of Formula One, the side that doesn't care about emotion. What makes this story even more painful is what both drivers said before they knew their result was about to be erased. Lando Norris, after an aggressive start and a tense turn 1 moment with Verstappen, recovered to second place. In the final laps, his pace suddenly dropped as he was instructed to lift and coast because of a potential fuel concern. After the race, Norris said, "I don't know what the issues were. The team just told me there was some problems and they were telling me to back off. So that's something I'll go and speak to them about in a bit." At the time, it sounded like a minor technical issue. Instead, it turned into the beginning of one of the biggest blows to McLaren's championship campaign. Oscar Piastri, meanwhile, endured a chaotic opening lap after contact with Liam Lawson, dropping to P7 before fighting his way back into the points. He finished 5th on the road, but was initially promoted to 4th due to Kimi Antonelli's 5-second penalty. Piastri said, "I think the first lap was eventful to say the least, and then a couple of mistakes after that which didn't help. The team did a really good job in getting our race back on track with strategy. Got stuck behind Kimi, got close on 1 lap, and I lost all grip when I tried to get alongside, and I couldn't get close enough again. That made life pretty tough, but a bit of a feeling of more on the table." He believed there was more to get from the race. Instead, the race itself was taken away.
Las Vegas was already considered one of the most controversial and unpredictable races on the calendar. A street circuit built for show, cold temperatures, low grip, violent porpoising, inconsistent surface behavior. Many teams struggled massively to understand the track. Ironically, the same conditions McLaren said contributed to abnormal wear are the same conditions that made this race weekend so dangerous for compliance. But the FIA's position is clear. Every team raced under the same conditions. Every car was measured by the same standard, and the regulations apply equally to all. Hamilton and Hülkenberg have already suffered similar disqualifications earlier in the season for skid block infringements. McLaren is not the first team to be punished. They are simply the latest. And because this happened in Las Vegas on a global stage, with the championship hanging in the balance, the impact is multiplied 1,000 times. This disqualification is not just about the points lost in Nevada. It is about the psychological impact heading into the final rounds. For Norris, this is a crushing blow. To lose valuable points not because of his driving, but because of technical non-compliance is one of the hardest things for a driver to accept. For Piastri, the frustration is just as intense because he is now tied with Verstappen despite on-track performance. And for Verstappen, something remarkable has happened. Without passing them in the final classification, without direct on-track domination, he is suddenly right back in contention. When Verstappen senses opportunity, he becomes the most dangerous driver on the grid. Now the spotlight turns to McLaren. How did both cars fall below the legal limit? Was the ride height too aggressive? Was porpoising misunderstood? Was track wear underestimated? McLaren will now go through an internal investigation that is brutal, precise, and unforgiving. They must ensure this never happens again, because one more technical issue like this will end their championship hopes completely. That means higher ride heights, more conservative setups, and absolute prioritization of legality over raw performance. Ironically, in doing so, they may hand the performance advantage back to Red Bull. This moment will be remembered as one of the defining turning points of the 2025 season, not because of a crash, not because of rain, not because of a sensational overtake, but because of a rule book and a measurement tool. Years from now, fans will look at Las Vegas 2025 and say, that was the moment everything turned. That was the moment when safety, compliance, and detail outweighed speed and talent. And that is the brutal beauty of Formula One. Races are not only won on the circuit, they are won in the garage, in the technical office, and in the millimeters that nobody sees. 2 McLaren drivers, 2 disqualifications, 0 points from Las Vegas, and suddenly the championship narrative has changed forever. Now the question is not, can McLaren hold on? The question is, can McLaren survive what comes next? because Verstappen is back within striking distance. The pressure is now suffocating, and the final 2 rounds will not be fought on speed alone. And Formula One has reminded the world once again, no result is safe until every boat, every plank, and every millimeter is measured.